Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Punch Kick Choke Chat. My name is Sean Benson, and I'm one of your hosts. And I'm so excited to jump into our chat with our guest tonight. He's somebody I've been following on Instagram and watching his YouTube videos for a while now. So I can't wait to dig into what's going on with him. So Sensei Chris Hanson, let me start with a question. So I'm not specifically asking about your club per se, but the concept of karate unity. What does that mean to you, and why is it important?
Oh, great question. First of all, I want to say thank you so much, guys, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor. My teacher has spoken so much about all of about some of your lineage. So I'd love to pick your brain about some of that later too. But so thank you so much for having me. Yeah. So karate unity it's kind of like it's a concept. It's that kind of sprung about 20 years ago, where I basically was experimenting with different arts and combat sports. I started off at Kwai Wong, and we did Shorin-ryu karate. I put in about 14 years there, and then I did some Dainisi Kempo afterwards. And during that journey, I met different martial artists from different clubs, and I found a lot of the things that I was doing fell apart very quickly under live pressure. And because of that introduced me to boxing, wrestling, and different type of tactical combatives. And then I'm thinking, as I was cross-trained with all these people, and we would do it very unofficially. We would meet up in the change rooms, and we'd exchange numbers and say, "Hey, man, let's meet up in your garage on this Sunday, this and that." And so we would have all these garage sessions, which led to backyard sessions, which led to let's go to big parks. And so we cross-trained with a lot of different martial artists, only to realize that we're all bound by the same biomechanical principles, and the only difference really is context. And so I had a light bulb moment, and I said, okay, I got to start filming some of this stuff. And then I basically over this last 15, 20 years, I've made a network. So Karate Unity now is a teaching and training collective consisting of traditional martial artists, combat sport players, and tactical combative instructors. And so I decided to be brave and open up a YouTube channel. And I was kind of scared to do that because of all the judgment that's out there and things like that. But I took a risk, and, my channel's not that big. It's a very small channel. I don't have a lot of time to put out a lot of stuff because my day job is a school teacher. And so my teaching practice is very limited to the evenings. It's a private practice, but because of this small exposure in this YouTube channel, people started to see, they really felt refreshed that karate is not just in the box. Like you can make connections to practically any martial art, right? We all share the same principles, right? So I got inboxed and invited to Europe to train and teach with Ian Abernathy and some of the UK guys over there and Germany. And so started to roll, and then I said, okay, let's make this legit. I start to make more content, and now I'm taking it locally and internationally. So it's a cross-training collective, basically.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And now let me go even more out of like the concept of rubber meets the road. What does the actual sense of context and unity mean for you, independent of your business with it? Because I really like to use that word, like, these things matter within context. So what was that light bulb moment, and what are the contexts that make you then look at things differently, more conceptually, less your approach through the business?
Unity to me, so it's a very dear concept, because I'm a school teacher. I'm an educator. My first career was a software developer, and then I started in that role. I wanted to, rather than just develop code, I wanted to teach the code. I wanted to help my users and this and that. And but I got frustrated in that career. So for various reasons. But my friend said I should migrate into education because of my natural, I guess you could say, vocation to communicate and to help people, intrinsically and just to help people grow and things. So I got into education, and as an educator, we have students from all walks of life. Every year I have an average between 25 to 30 different individuals, and we're all bound by the same goals. We want to grow, right? And so I see this, and we're all learning from different sources, right? And we're mixing the ideas and making educational music, so to speak. I find this is not in the karate world, of at least what I've seen, and in a lot of camps as well. There's a lot of like, we're the best. It's just all about us, and it's me kind of thing. And I don't feel like there's this openness and this inclusion, right? And so because of this, I got very frustrated, and I said, you know what, I'm going to try to make a difference, and I'm going to push what's valuable to me, which is, we're all bound by the same biomechanical principles. If you take a kata movement and you see, you go to a Kali school or a Eskrima school, you'll see, like say you see Gedan, you'll see the same kind of strip with a stick. You'll see the same kind of disarm with a knife. You'll see an Aikido guy kind of pass an arm and tenkan, and their hand is dropping. You'll see a boxer snap back with his hands down, with this hand up here. Okay, there's no hikite, but there's the snapback, the same biomechanical principles where you're rotating, and then you're pushing forward, which is bound by a lot of the kihons that we do in karate. So because of all those similarity threads, I over the years, I'm starting to realize, I'm thinking, hey, we are all bound by the same notes. So let's make music.
So this is going to knock me into my first round the horn question, and I'll actually end with you, Sensei Hanson. I got sober in 12-step 15 years ago, and one of the most fundamental principles is look for the similarities, not the differences. Because if you go into that meeting and you look for the differences, you'll leave that day. But if you look for the similarities, you might stick around a while. So I'm going to start with you, Sensei Dauphin, then Hanshi Legacy, then you, Sensei Suino. At what point do you look for the similarities, not the differences? And at what point do you stop and go, yeah, but now I found what I need? Sensei Dauphin?
Well, I was lucky to stumble in. People always tell me I'm lucky because Sensei Legacy is my teacher, and I've had that one teacher right from the beginning. I found a great teacher on the very first day that I walked in to the room, and I love Shorin-ryu. It really works for me. I do agree with Sensei Hanson about the biomechanical principles, because for me, when I go, whether it's Sifu Graysonin or the people, if the people are nice and they're open, I mostly hear the same message coming back at me over and over and over again. Even on this call, I've experienced it. We've had so many people on here. We've had Calais people. We've had a scream of people. We've had White Crane Kung Fu people. We've had karate people. We've had Aikido people. The things they say always resonate with what I hear Sensei Legacy saying to me. Like, I don't hear big differences, right? Now, I do think, I guess I want to be a little bit controversial. I do think some styles are better than other styles, because I think some styles are inherently flawed, and I'm not going to name them because I don't want people to get offended by that. But, like, their focus is too narrow. Like something like Shorin-ryu has a fairly broad focus when it comes to striking, elbows, knees, clinching, takedowns, whereas some do not. So then you gotta, I guess, diverge a little more than, right? I guess diverge and experiment a little more in other systems. That's just my opinion on that.
And on Hanshi Legacy, you want to look for the similarities, not the differences. What are your thoughts on that? And can you take that too far?
No, the similarities are definitely there. And that's why one style is good, because everything is in there. But I also agree that you have to look at different angles at it. And that's where you get friends. And to make music, you have to be able to play one instrument good, right? Or you can't just be shitty at a bunch of little different things. you have to understand your style before you can go out and look for those similarities. But I agree that you do have to go out and look at jiu-jitsu, EI. They all have gifts, and again, I agree that they're all related in some way. So again, as Sean said, it's about learning what's under your feet first, and then going out and exploring other styles and adding to yours.
Thanks, Hachi. Sensei Suino, anything you want to add or play with there with that thinking?
You know, a lot's been said, but Sensei Hanson alluded earlier to the fact that we're all composed of kind of the same physical structure. Obviously, not everybody has the same build. Some people are missing an arm or a leg, but basically, right, we work on the same biomechanical principles. We have skeletons, muscles, connective tissue, and if you're creating power, there's only a certain number of ways to do it. Plenty of nuance within those ways. And I believe, and at some point we could talk about this at length, that the reason styles have a certain look is because of the way they generate power.
Right on. Thanks, Sensei. I just want to chip in real quick before we go to Sensei Hanson with this idea. You know, I heard a great phrase once: it's easier to break a man than build a man. And you know, you can break a man in one comment or one day, whereas you build someone over time. And the idea that somebody, and this goes to what you said, Sensei Dauphin, has like maybe a flawed style, but to then connect with them on the similarities is quietly helping to build. And maybe it shines a light on what they are missing. And maybe they call you later instead of going, that's shit, I'm moving on. It's easy to do that. It's tougher to quietly connect. And I really love the idea of similarities versus differences. Sensei Hanson?
Yeah, I love this. I just writing some stuff down so I don't forget. But back to Hanshi's statement where, you know, you need a base. I love that. I mean, I've always been, one of the main criticisms of some of the things I've been doing is, dude, you're a jack of all trades, but you're a master of none, right? Type of thing. It's like, you know, you're dipping your hands into so many different things, but you're not really understanding your karate. They're saying this simply because they don't know me. This is just simply a judgment that they see based on, you know, a text or a comment or one or two videos, and then they jump to this conclusion. Is like, whereas, you know, people that know me, like I've put in 14 years in Shorin-ryu and about 12 in Kempo, and I haven't stopped learning. I still train, and after that time, I started to realize that, in my opinion, I think I had a pretty strong base, and now it was time for me to look at attributes. And so, like, I fully agree with Hanshi's idea that, you know, you need a base, you know, before you can play music. You need to know the notes really well. You need to have a good knowledge of scale and musical signatures and things like that in order for you to make music. So back to the core here, I wrote down an idea that I think you guys might hopefully will appreciate. It's about soccer. So I had this interesting conversation with a friend of mine, and he's a big soccer fan, and he had a great talk with his friend who plays professional soccer, and he says that on his training days, on his off days, he'll go off and cross train in racket sports, squash, table tennis, normal tennis, right? And these activities give him fine tuning on his footwork for soccer. So it gives him it teaches him how to change his balance on the dime, how to drop, how to shoot in, and all these kind of things. And he literally found such high return on investment in cross training in racket sports to improve his soccer skills. And he was just looking at the footwork piece. You see what I'm saying? And so I find that the cross training is very important, but the timing in which you do it, I think, is important. Like you can't do it right away when you start. I think, you know, you need to do it at a reasonable time when you've achieve some sort of proficiency in your base art.
Sensei Dauphin?
Yeah, I wanted to, you said something, Sensei Hanson, about, oh, you don't understand your own art. I don't know what you find, but I find when I receive those types of criticisms, they're usually from recreational martial artists.
Yeah.
Right? They're from somebody who
Yeah.
trains 2 times a week. And my response to them usually is, oh yeah, how many times did you karate this week? And they'll say, oh, yeah, on Monday and Wednesday. And I'm like, okay, well, I did it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and every other Sunday. And I did Iaido like 5 days that week. And I did, and so they're leveling those criticisms based on their own level of training. It's very rare. I do Iaido a lot. When I stand in front of Sensei Legacy, he never says, oh, your karate sucks because you're doing Iaido, right? Like I've never heard that, because I make sure that I, as you do, keep the stuff at the level that it needs to be at. Right.
Yeah, Sensei Suino?
Yeah, and we were just chatting about this the other day. There's some really high profile people that are using a different art to improve their core art. 2 examples that come to mind. Back when Arnold was competing in Mr. Olympia, he would go to ballet instructor
Yes,
so he
he
could
would.
move better, right?
Oh, I love that. I use that a lot. Yeah.
And more recently, in the last couple of weeks, there's a pretty big time American football player who is starting to go into judo to improve his chances of not getting hurt or getting concussions when he falls. I mean, there's just tons of opportunities for this. And you're talking about guys that are at the apex of their key, their core profession, right?
Well,
Cool
I think,
stuff.
yeah, an important thing you mentioned as well about the, the table tennis or the racket sports is to improve his footwork for soccer. Like I know for myself, there's been periods where I've been a weightlifter and done karate and they did this with each other. And then there's times where I've lifted weights for my martial arts and they do this together, and so for me, once I solved the umbrella being my martial arts and everything else fits, then it ceased to be, it's like, now I'm going to lift for my martial arts. I'm not just lift, because now they might contradict each other in terms of how I'm even lifting. So I love the idea of, cross training for the thing with a goal, not just cross training randomly, like I do 7 things disparately.
Yeah, it has to be purposeful. I always have talks with all my coach friends and my students, bottom line, know your why. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen who are watching, I think that's a beautiful opening. And by the way, I want to say, Sensei, it's such a pleasure to start chatting with you, but also the fact that you're taking notes as we chat, because you don't want to forget things. You're going to fit right in, because you're going to notice us writing a bunch because of how much we want to take in from you. So it's a real pleasure to already begin with that reciprocity. Ladies and gentlemen who are watching and listening, as I mentioned, my name's Sean Benson. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm here with Sensei Randy Dauphin, Sensei Nicholas Suino, and Hanshi Gary Legacy. And I always like to say a little something about us. And I just want to say that this last weekend, we had the tournament that Hanshi Legacy created, the Matsumura Challenge, that Sensei Dauphin 99% ran. And at some point as I'm reffing, I get the flags in my hand and I hear one of my favorite voices in the world. I'm like, what the fuck? And I look over, there's Sensei Suino standing behind, because he came up to support. And Sensei Dauphin, you may or may not want to touch on this, but I believe it was the best attended, best sized tournament we've had. It was a beautiful Saturday. I just saw martial art after martial art, and I did compete, but I enjoyed the reffing and the judging because I was engaged with the young competitors, and it was beautiful. It was one of the best tournaments I've ever been to, and I just want to say thanks to the 3 of you for being there and supporting it.
No problem. Before I go, I'll make a couple comments about it. When Sensei Legacy and I talked about 2019, which is the last one we did, I think we did one of the very last tournaments before the pandemic hit. And that was our previous best tournament. And we had like 16 schools and about 183 competitors. And I'm really happy to say that we had 32 clubs at our tournament. And we had 300 competitors and probably 250 spectators, another 50 referees, and 32 coaches. It was just, and everybody got along with each other. They all got along. Competition was fierce, but everybody celebrated the winners. Karate unity, like it was karate unity in action. And as far as my role in it, if it's getting better because of my efforts, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of other people. So that allows me to throw the ball a little farther, maybe. Right. But without standing on those people's shoulders, then it's going to fall flat.
Well, there's
Anything we do is just like to show you do it as a team. There's no one of us who's smarter than all of us, and there's no one of us that can do more than all of us together. And so that's what I want to say about that. And then I want to introduce my my new friend, Sensei Chris Hanson. Sensei Hanson is based out of Toronto, Canada, right where you are, Sean Benson.
Center of the universe.
Yes. And he's studied martial arts for over 40 years. He's a third Dan in Nisi Kempo Karate, but he's also holds black belts in a few different martial arts, and he cross trains in numerous arts, as we've been talking about. Sensei teaches private lessons, small group workshops, and international seminars. And before the show, we were talking about, I know he has one coming up in Michigan that he's going to be going to. So we'll dig into those with him in a little bit. Like all of us outside of martial arts, he has an important life as a husband and a father. He was a former software developer and blogger. He has a really good podcast, Karate Unity. We've all been stalking it and watching it. He's had some high profile people on there, which is also super cool. And he's an educator. He's currently an elementary school teacher. That YouTube channel, Karate Unity, he started that in 2018. And since then, he's got over 2,000 subscribers, which is, and all that chatter and noise on YouTube, it's hard to build your brand, and he's doing a good job with it. And his videos have more than 130,000 views. Yeah, and Karate Unity it's to explore cross training in other arts and combat sports for one reason: to improve your karate. And I know Sensei will like that. I like that too. That really stood out for me. I'm going to say it again. Explore cross-train in other arts and combat sports for one reason: to improve your karate. And if you're a judo practitioner, you should be doing it for your judo. And if you're a BJJ practitioner, you should be doing it for your BJJ. The philosophy is the same, just change the last word. For me, we have shared friends. Scott Taylor is a good friend of mine. Sensei Hanson is a good friend of Scott Taylor's. As a matter of fact, I was teaching a class and they both came walking in here about a month ago. And that was my first time that I got to meet Sensei Hanson. Also, good friends with just a total young stud, Ryan Feiss.
Ryan, yeah.
Ryan was the grand champion at our tournament. He won everything. As soon as he did a move, the rest of the division just kind of went, okay. Second is the new first.
That's good. That's good.
We have lots of shared interests, which means that it's really easy to talk with Sensei Hanson. He's a very genuine person. In my opinion, no pretense, no pomp and circumstance. And yeah, we're going to have a good chat. And thank you so much, Sensei Hanson, for coming on the podcast with us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Sensei. So just a little shout out to everybody who's watching on the YouTube channel, not in real time. We're so happy you're here. Hit that subscribe, hit that like button, share it with your friends. To everybody listening on the podcast, drive safely while you're listening, or, I hope your ingredients go into your baking dish really well right now while you're listening. And to those of us who are with us here tonight on Zoom, that makes you part of our living history. And we have the chat button at the bottom of the screen, which Robert just lit up for us. So you can enter your questions to be answered by Sensei Hanson. Or if it's for all of us, we can pass it around the horn, and then you get to be part of this history that is Punch, Kick, Choke, Chat. And we're just super grateful you're here, because we're loving this run on this show. And are we at 100 eps yet? Like, we must be at like 98 or something, right?
It's getting close.
Getting close. All right. Well, we'll keep everybody apprised on that, because that's going to be a big celebration night, whoever our guest is. Maybe we'll wear hats and bring party favors. Anyways, let's get to our guest tonight. Sensei Hanson, this is my favorite question to ask everybody is, what was it like growing up for you? What brought you into your first dojo, and what kept you there?
Ooh. Can you repeat that again one more time?
Sure. Well, what was it like you growing up pre-martial arts, and then what brought you into your first dojo? And then I'll hit you with the third one when we're there.
Okay, so growing up, I got to write this down. Short-term memory, man. So I got into martial arts Well, I was forced. In a nutshell, I grew up in Scarborough, Nielsen and Shepherd area. Went to school there, elementary school, and I was there for a long time. I'm 54. I'm a 1968 baby. I grew up in a very racially tense time in that area. I was the only mixed Asian kid in my class, and so a very typical story. I got bullied every single day, from my skin color to the size of my ears, to what I wore, to the smell on my clothing, to my grandma, to the type of music I listened to, the pencil case that I had, you name it, right? I was getting beaten up a couple of times during the week too. I mean, somewhat serious too. Like I had lacerations on my face, and I got kicked in various places and this and that. And anyway, my dad said, enough's enough. You got to do something. So you're either going to go into hockey or karate. You got to do something to get you stronger. So I didn't want to do hockey because at the time, all the guys that bullied me were in the hockey league over there. So I said, okay, let me try this karate thing that you're saying, right? So I went to a community center where Kwai Wong had some of his top students teaching there. It was at I think Mid Scarborough Community Center at Kennedy and Eglinton. I don't know if you're familiar with Scarborough there, but it was a 20-week crash course there, and I took that. I fell in love with it, and then I realized that in this community there was white, black, Asian, girls, boys, fat, skinny, you name it, timid, shy, strong, all kinds of people. I could actually breathe. I felt very relaxed, very comfortable, very inclusive. I was hooked, man, with this group fitness vibe. I've never experienced anything like it, where you're standing in a line, you're actually doing things in synergy, you're breathing, and just the whole wearing of a gi and things snapping and all this kind of stuff was just so visceral for me. I said, the course was done and I was almost in tears, and I said, Dad, I got to do more of this. And so the head instructor said, listen, our core Hambu dojo is in Scarborough. Go and see Kwai Wong. So that's when it started, man. I put in 14 years on the map there, nonstop, a couple of times a week. Would train with I made a lot of friends there, and would train on the weekends and this and that. And then I met different martial artists, and then they introduced me to Dainisi Kempo, which is a Vic Arnold's system. He passed away in 2015. He was one of the most, how could I say? He basically said to me, he says, go out there, travel, train, and teach, share your craft, learn new things, bring it back to us. It's like food. We're going to sample it, and we're going to taste it and enjoy it together and learn from it. That blew my mind. So that kind of habit was formed in my mind. And then I started meeting more people. I would start seeking out more people like that. And that's when this cross-training journey started, right? So my first dojo was Kwai Wong, Wong's Martial Arts in Scarborough. And my second dojo was Dainisi Kempo with Vic.
Why is the martial arts so inclusive? Like how is it that back there in the early 70s, I'm guessing that was, or mid 70s, you're finding something among tough men and women who you would not necessarily associate with being progressive. And all of a sudden, when you're geared up, it's a colorblind room. How does that happen?
Well, I found, like I said, I found a lot of us had one thing in common. We had a lot of self-esteem issues. We had things that we're battling, problems with our family, issues with our bosses, this and that. We all had issues. We're all struggling through things. And we found that the moment for that 90 minutes that we're in that activity, we were just hyper-focused on the now. And everything we did had a strategic, mindful goal. And that is to get better with each other's help, and we were all there for the same mission, and there was no question about it. it was just one of those, it was a moral and physical and mental code. You know what I mean? And that's what bound us together, you know? And I mean, I've played sports before too. I mean, you could argue the same thing on a sports team, but there's something higher level in a martial arts activity, I'd say, that brings us together. And that's that common goal to be together and grow and learn and just, you know, forget everything else. You know?
Hanshi Legacy, I want to jump to you for that one. You know, you arguably came from a world right before karate that maybe wasn't as inclusive. And then the man I met in the 90s, I mean, you always treated the room as colorblind and sex blind. Like, how does the martial arts get that way when it's founded by tough men and soldiers who normally might not appear that way?
Well, you know, respect, because, you know, you guys like Muhammad Ali or those guys, they always mostly end up being polite because they know the ins and outs. Nobody's going to get tough with you. So, you know, when a person goes in there, they go in with an open mind. No bullies are going to come in there and start mouthing off or pushing people around. So you feel like you're in a safe environment, right? You know, bullies, they always like to be able to push you around, but if anybody pushes back, they don't go there. And that's sort of what martial arts gives you. Also, it helps you, you know, overcome, gives you confidence, helps you overcome, or gives you the courage to face bullies. And so everybody there is with one common interest. So I don't think they see your size, your color, or any of that stuff. I've had a few people from different countries, and they always said that everyone, I have never heard anyone talk about racism or anything like that in martial arts. Everybody's treated as a human being. So I think that's what it is. The sensei is important. The sensei is the guy who sets the ground rules. And like I said, bullies are not going to push a good sensei around. It's just, he won't get tough with them, but he'll just ask them to.
Thanks, Hanshi. Sensei Suino, where do you go with this, especially having experienced your own version of being the outsider in Japan?
Yeah, well, long before that, I think what Hanshi said is, you know, definitely resonates with me. The sensei or the role models are really important. You know, when I was a kid coming up in judo at the YMCA, you know, there's a bunch of us chuckle-headed 9-year-olds in the room, and someone strange would walk in, and, you know, we're all getting ready to be smart asses, and the sensei would turn to that person and say, "Oh, this is so-and-so. They're really effing good at judo. Here, learn from them." You know, and then next thing you know, an hour's gone by, the sensei's respecting them, all the seniors are respecting them, they can kick your ass. It's not an act anymore. Like, you're polite when you have to be in the beginning. By the end of the hour, you're like, I'm on board. I don't care what they look like, right? So it's a really fundamental way of convincing you that people's value is something other than the things that you know, hang on the outside of them.
Right on. Sensei Dauphin?
I guess it's just a thought. Like, I've never thought about this before until this question came up. So this is a new thought in my brain. But one thing that was really clear to me when I joined the dojo was my place. And my place wasn't my place because I was a white man. My place was my place because of my abilities. And the people who had more abilities than me, whether they were Asian or Black or white or men or women, had their place because their skill was higher. Like, they had a higher ability and a higher skill. So I learned my place, and it wasn't based on race or anything like that. It was just based on, this person's just better than me, so I need to do what they tell me to do, whether they're white or Black or a man or a woman. And I think that's maybe one of the things in the dojo is there's also, if you try and be a dick, there's consequence.
Right.
Right? Like, there's a consequence to that, right? Like, if I want to go in to a dojo and be a misogynist, well, you're probably going to find yourself in front of some woman who's going to like roundhouse your ass into oblivion or like punch you in the face. And then you're going to figure that your place really quick.
Yep.
Right?
Love that, Sensei. I just want to add one little thought, Hanshi, because you mentioned the confidence. And I think that 99% of all racism and homophobia and misogyny comes from fear, fear of the other, fear of things. And when you're confident, you're not afraid of that other thing. And so it's just like becomes inconsequential, hopefully. But I made that connection when you said that. You gain confidence and then you're less concerned with trying to diminish a thing you don't understand.
John, before you go to
Yeah.
Hanson, I just want to mention when Sensei Legacy was inducted in the Canadian Black Belt Hall of Fame, Sensei Jim Maloney, who's a Mi'kmaq Indian, was there, right? He's an Indigenous person. And he started with this speech and everybody was kind of tense, right? Because he was talking about racism and how he was treated. And then at the very end, he said, except in the martial arts community, anytime I stepped onto the dojo floor, everybody treated me as an equal and treated me well and respected me. Right. So we hear this over and over again.
Love that. When was it that you felt like the live pressure, I love that term you used, showed what you knew maybe not to be either adequate or complete?
Oh, great question. It's an easy answer for me because I'm thinking about the moment that it changed. I got my ass kicked with a boxer. So in that journey, I'd say around the 13th, 14th year, I met a lot of different martial artists, and I actually started to, just get curious, what else is out there? Not out of any disrespect, just out of learning. I just wanted to know, what else is out there, because I often, we define ourselves with our organization. We define ourselves just in the walls of our dojo. I, because of my upbringing, I was always taught to, learn from everywhere, right? So my grandma and my dad, my mom, and they would always tell me, to keep learning from different things, right? So anyway, I met different martial artists, one of which was a student of Vic Arnold. And by the way, Ryan Feiss was also a student of Vic. That's how we met, Sensei Randy. But yeah, so I met. Losing my train of thought here. So I met a student of Vic, and we touched hands, and he told me that they cross train in different combat sports too, and then so I started looking out for training with these different kind of people. So I came across a boxer who trained in Jeet Kune Do, Muay Thai, and Savat. And so his hands and his foot mobility was unbelievable. In about 25 seconds, so he came into my house and we trained in this and that. And first time I met him, within 25 seconds, I'm used to, a different way of holding my hands, from training at Wong's, it'd be very circular, and I would hold my hands low, and I would kind of stay in one spot. I wouldn't be moving around type of thing. I would, I would take angles in this and that, but I wasn't as elusive as this man. And so I chopped his hand and I got in, and he says, "Oh, good." He goes, let's go, let's keep going. And so within the first 10, 15 seconds, he read my reaction, and I chopped his hand again, and he just basically felt the pressure, went around and just hooked me, boom. And I was out, and I was winded too, because my legs weren't used to this type of cardio. Like I wasn't used to this type of cardio. I wasn't used to moving my head. Anyway, I just said to myself, I got to learn boxing. And so boxing to me was a great delivery system that opened my eyes to, it was kind of like gasoline to my dachiwaza, all my stances. It's like I got new meaning now for Nikawashi dachi, for shikodachi, for different back stances and stuff. I would see karate through the lens of boxing footwork. And I said to myself, wow, I said, it's like a different change of perspective is making the stuff I know already so much better. And so then I went to his gym and I trained at Sam Lumpini gym for a long time. And he's a mixed martial art, Savat, Muay Thai, kickboxing, Krav Maga, and all these things. And yeah, so I don't know if I answered the question. I think I digressed a little bit.
Absolutely, you answered that question. And so
okay.
is that what then led you toward the Kempo? Or
Yes, yes,
started
yes.
with Sensei?
Yes. So yeah, that's what led me to Vic Arnold. And Vic was, I swear, I get emotional talking about the man. I'm in my dojo now. I have his photo right there, man. But he was such a chill man. He would I would train privates with him, and I would pay like next to nothing, and I would train with him for 4 to 4.5 hours privates at his house. And he would basically say, let's study this, let's infuse this, let's take a look at this. Bring next week, bring the book that you were talking about. Let's look at it together. Write this down, study this, put a sticky note on here. He would encourage me to study, like really study martial arts. And it was not just me doing it, we would do it. So we would do it together. And he knew I was cross training at this at Sam Lumpini gym. And he said, show me some videos of this man. And I would show him, some of the things we were doing. And he says, I like this. And he's going, all right, keep training, bring it back. We'll work with it together. So this type of, how could I say no to a man like this? I fell in love with this guy. So that was my next journey. So I put a lot of time with him, and I carry all of my teachers' teachings and ideas with me. It's just a wonderful journey, man.
That sounds fantastic. I actually want to start with you, Sensei Suino. What's something a teacher told you younger that you didn't understand till older?
Boy, that's a toughie. The first one that comes to mind is my Iaido teacher, Yamaguchi Sensei, used to tell me to cool my jets, not in those words, but I was a 28-year-old young man training my ass off, competing, just embracing life. And I'd come in the dojo and I'd be like, I'd say, Sensei, check this out. I got this idea, this idea. He can look at me and listen. You go, good, let's train. And, just shut me down. And I appreciated it at the time. Of course, I would have done anything for the guy, but now I understand more about why he did that. It forced me to go inward and deepen my thoughts about whatever it was I was expressing. And I now find myself doing that for my students as well.
Right on. Hanshi Legacy, you had a reaction to that question. It's a big question. What's a lesson you maybe didn't get at the time, but you appreciate now, or even a way of being, not even necessarily a lesson?
Relax. Your mind has to be calm. It's just like a bucket of water. If it's splashing around, you can't see your image in it. So you can't really see what's happening. You need to be calm. That was for me. I was like hyper all the time, aggressive. Didn't realize that I should calm everything down. Took me quite a while.
Right on. Sensei Dauphin?
Didn't understand younger. I didn't know anything. I was just like a dumbass, right? So, I guess I can remember with Sensei Legacy, like, we spent so many hours together, like hundreds of thousands of hours together. Very similar to what Sensei Hanson's talking about. Like, and not only in the dojo, but driving in the car, going different places. And Sensei would talk to me about things, and then I'd have these like thoughts in my mind when I was independent away from him, and I'd come back and I'd be like, just like Sensei Suino was saying, Sensei Legacy, like, I had this thought, this is like this new crazy thing. And he'd say, oh yeah, I did that in like 1974. And I'd be like, oh shit, okay, I thought. And I guess one of the things that I would say is, I've kind of learned that it's just repeating itself, right? And the new things are small things. They're they're very, very minuscule. It's not like a major thing. And that's led me to just understand that, you know, what is my goal in martial arts? To stay in martial arts as long as I can, pass it along, and hopefully just end up being a picture on somebody's wall, right? You know, in Iaido, I would say one of the things that I know now is, in the beginning, when I would be with Sensei Suino, everything was very general and it wasn't very specific, right? For me, he was very specific, but I kept it very general, right? Oh yeah, my sword's on my hip. Oh yeah, I'm putting my hand on the handle. Oh yeah, like I'm pulling it out. But now I know that when he gives a specific correction, I need to go work on that thing very specifically, right? That very specific thing, very specifically and very diligently. And that's been a long time now. Like I've been doing that, but in the first 10 years of my Iaido, it was just very general, I would say.
I'll just throw two quick ones out. Sensei Dauphin, one of the big ones you said so early, and I never understood it till like years later, is just slow down and do it right. You know, I was always trying to do it right at the cutting edge of how it would end up being for decades. And I feel like only recently have I learned what slowing down to get it right and then speeding really looks like. And Hanshi, the one thing you've taught me and Sensei Dauphin here is just losing to win. Sensei, you and I have talked about that a lot lately. Like I didn't realize losing to win didn't mean getting maybe a bruise on your forearm. Like there's a different version of it in the pocket, etc. that I didn't drop in for decades as well. I thought I was losing to win while still defending with like long jabs, the possibility of getting hurt and not really gaining much from it. Sensei Hanson, talk to us about that next while then with Vic Arnold and what that training regimen looked like, and then what that brought you to, how that brought you to realizing your own path.
So I went out his way to in Durham region there, Oshawa. I would travel there. I lived at the time with my parents in Scarborough, Nielsen and Shepherd area. So it would be like about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic, you know. Anyway, I'd go out there and we trained at a club called Adonis Martial Arts. I don't know if that club still exists now. Yeah, so Sensei Vic Arnold was running that club for years. And one of his top students, Doug Gillian, he's a RCMP officer and a student of Vic too. And anyway, the training was amazing. I went there and, you know, I told him, I said, Sensei, I'm gonna wear my white belt. You know, I want to start fresh, empty cup kind of thing. And he told me, he says, who's your teacher before? And I said, Kwai Wang. And he goes, Kwai Wang, Iron Chinese man. He goes, I know him. And he says, listen, you came from him. You're going to wear whatever you had before. And I said, but you know, out of respect to your students, I don't want to cause any issues. He goes, my guys will just have to understand. He goes, you'll just learn and you keep moving on and we'll grade you accordingly, you know? And so it was a very free form system. In terms of, he would bring in ideas from practically anywhere. And it was a reflection of his learning style. Vic was a lifelong learner. He would spend hours in libraries, taking profuse notes, studying videos, and he became very proficient in the internet, you know, and it was quite amazing. You know, he would share all these videos with us and bring in tapes and put his you know, VCR there, and we'd watch things and study. And anyway, he fostered a very academic but freestyle cross-training type of environment. He allowed me sometimes to teach class too and express myself, and that was all part of his grading, you know. And he encouraged us to go out and train with other people, you know, based on once we've exhibited certain proficiency in certain things, of course. And so that sparked me to do something, to record things, to write things down. And he told me, he says, listen, I think we're at a stage now where we can travel together. He goes, because he was also a student of Ed Parker. He would take a lot of seminars with Ed, and Ed certified him under his system too, in the Kempo system. And so anyway, he told me, he says, this is where it's at too. He says, you need to go out and travel. Traveling is a great way to learn, about culture and in anything, right? So he says, particularly in the martial arts, go out there and put yourself out there and learn and share and train and, and bring back. So that's what got me going. So I started, I kind of wish we did more of that. He passed away in 2015, but I'm holding the torch now, and I'm always thinking of him. And, Karate Unity is exactly that now. It's a collective of people. We're all friends, and we're all share seminars together. We share gradings together. One of my gradings that I just had, I pulled together some of my friends together and at the grading, and my student had to learn from these guys prior. That was that's what Vic wanted us to do too, right? So yeah.
Time for your 10 questions, Chris Sensei. We are at our beautiful 9:30 when every one of our guests gets the same 10 questions, and we ask that you answer as impulsively as you can, but feel free to elaborate after that. What is the most effective move in your martial arts arsenal?
Is that for me?
Yeah, these are all for you. No one else is going to chime in. It's all you.
Okay. Chopping, cutting the distance and shutting down limbs.
Who is the most influential martial artist in your life?
Oh, that's a hard one. When I first discovered who Bruce Lee is, he kind of made me do a deep dive into thinking about cross training, because Bruce did that quite well.
So then who do you think is the most influential martial artist of all time, and why?
It's hard to say. I don't have an answer to that. I think there's a lot of influential martial artists out there. I wouldn't do justice if I just said one. Yeah, sorry, I can't. To me, I mean, I hold dear, personally, my teachers, all my teachers, they all have a time and a place in my training, so yeah, sorry, I can't be specific on that.
All good. It's your answers, and that makes them right. What excites you most about the next 5 years of your training?
Well, I'm 54. I'm nearing the end of my career in teaching, in elementary school teaching. I'd like to, if the numbers work out right, I'd like to retire within the next couple of years. And so I'm kind of looking at taking Karate Unity to another level in terms of just international travel, which have started over the last couple of years. I've partnered up with also some authors. Chris Wilder, for instance, is one. We're going to be doing a project together, a filming project. Have you guys heard of Chris Wilder? Do you know who he is? Sensei
I don't
Chris
know.
Wilder. He's an avid author and a Goju stylist, as well as he's cross-trained in judo. Chris, K-R-I-S Wilder, W-I-L-D-E-R. If you look him up, you'll get a better idea of who he is. But so things like that. Networking and collaborating with different martial artists. I'm excited, and I have to. It's work-life, family balance too. I have to keep everybody happy. I have a wife and a daughter, and I can't neglect them. So we negotiate and plan these projects together. And I got the thumbs up from my wife on some of these projects. So yeah, doing that, seminars, filming, collaborating with other martial artists, and just keep moving and keep teaching and training and just keep going. Yeah.
Right on. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you get there?
You reached out, you did well. You've done the best you could. You've been honest and truthful.
Do you have a favorite film and television martial artist, even if they're not actually martial artists, but on the screen,
Favorite film?
and or TV martial artist?
Bruce Lee. I like The Raid.
Mm.
Have you seen that movie? You guys seen the
Yes,
movie, The Raid?
excellent.
The Raid Redemption? Oh, Ikaw Awis. Yeah, he's cool. And all the team of Silat practitioners. Yeah, those guys. Yeah.
Is there a martial artist, living or dead, in all of recorded history who you'd like to train with the most?
Well, I had him on my channel, Boss Rutan. Where Boss was on my channel in 2019. So I'd love to go there. I keep in touch with with one of his trainers there, Dana Hernandez, and we're planning that. So I'd like to go there and train with Boss. Yeah.
That's awesome. Boss is a
Yeah.
total legend.
Yeah.
If everyone in the world could have the greatest benefit you've gotten from martial arts, whether they train or not, what would that benefit be?
Touching hands with as many people as possible and making biomechanical music with your martial arts with others, just bringing people together through common principles, and the love of training, yeah.
The last two of our 10 questions come as a pair. What is your greatest achievement and what is your greatest regret?
Greatest achievement is my daughter. My greatest regret is I have a lot of regrets. My greatest regret is, I guess, not making amends with people that I'd like to reach out and make amends with people that I've had disagreements with. It bothers me when, disagreements on anything, like it just bothers me at this age that I'm in now. I want to make peace with everyone. So when I die and pass, I know I've tried, things like that. Yeah.
Right on. Have you reached out to try and make some of those, or is that something?
Yes. And it's been good. I can
Yeah.
sleep at night when that happens, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the amends process is something I've been through and go through all the time. And it's one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves.
Yeah.
Down that weight.
Amen.
Amen. Let's jump back into your journey. You went from that boxing experience. It opened your eyes. It put you with Sensei Vic Arnold. In that next period with him, did you find what you were looking for? Did you find that you could then be pressured live, be in the moment? Did you get what you needed to be able to step toward those situations differently?
Yes, I often, when people ask me, what do I do? What's my style? They're looking for a specific, simple answers that they can, see it, right? It's hard for me to say that I'm a karate guy. Like to me, karate now is a language. I look at it as just I'm always going to be a karate guy. I'm bound by it, and it's because like I love everything about it. And it defined me when I was a kid, and those impressions won't go away, but having said that, I look at karate now as just another word for like, empty hand to me is a template. My hand is empty, but my heart is open. Empty hand, open heart, open mind is my idea now. So it's a delivery system for learning, and I just look at martial arts now. I just see everything as movement, as principles that have purpose. And it's just all at the end of the day, like you go to Home Depot and you have a box of tools. You've got all these tools now and you get a chance to play with all these tools. And so that's where I'm at now. And Vic and Kwai and all of these people that I've had the pleasure to train with, it's all making sense now. It's a language, and I can actually have deep, meaningful conversations and training with people, at that level now. So it's good. Yes. So the answer is yes. I've I have definitely gotten what I wanted, and it feels right. You know, I don't feel like I'm just doing one thing now. I feel like I'm doing one big, massive, integrated thing, you know, and it just keeps growing. So it's good.
Right
Yeah.
on. Sensei Dauphin, I see you connecting with some of those ideas, you know, the idea of it just being this broad movement or anything. Is there anything you want to add or think about out loud there?
Well, I'm just, what I'm what I'm hearing from Sensei Hanson is a mature type of attitude. Like even when he's talking about, you know, it's not an immature, he's not expressing it immaturely when he's saying it's integrated and being open-minded, making amends. All these things are things that, you know, when I was younger, I was just a competitive athlete and wanted to dominate people. And you and I have talked about this, Sean, like, you know, when I'm fighting in here now with people, I just really want to help them with their fighting. And you know, you can flick the switch and then bring out the beast if you want to, but I like it to not be that way. And that's what I'm hearing from Sensei Hanson, right? Is just like, there's levels to this, and he's now at a high level of thinking. And that is gonna definitely, if you train for a long time, it's gonna come out in your actual physical techniques.
Right on. What about you, Sensei Suino? You know, at what point does you're always doing the style, but at what point does the style disappear and just become movement?
When you get really, really good and you do it a lot. You know, some martial arts are demonstration martial arts. Iaido is a demonstration martial art. Karate kata, in my view, feel free to differ, is a demonstration martial art. But sparring in karate, randori in judo, rolling, those are martial arts where you can immerse yourself. And I think you can transcend technique at some point. I just know that I experienced that in the world of judo and grappling, and that is that I'm just in it. And I rarely think about methodically about technique anymore. But, you know, I've been doing that stuff since 1968. Eventually it soaks in, you know.
Hanshi Legacy, you might disagree with what I'm about to say, but it could be argued that you're the most strictly dedicated to one art, but also I'd argue the most formless when fighting. So for you, when does style become just movement and no longer style?
I agree with Sensei Nick. When you're expressing yourself, there's nothing in your mind. Your training just comes through. If we're talking about doing kata, there's a way of doing different styles, kung fu, karate, taekwondo. That is the style, like you were saying. But when you become a fighter, you can box, you can kickbox, but it's self-expression. That's when you blank your mind and all your training comes through. And it better be good, long, deep training. If you want to face other guys that are really good and concentrate on their fighting. But I agree, you know, I agree that basically physically all martial arts are different, but the effect and the change of your character is done inside. So all martial arts are good.
Right on. Sensei Hanson, we had a question come in from Justin Shea, one of our black belts at Shore and Root Sensei Dauphin's Club. Do you think that the cross-training journey eventually comes to some kind of conclusion? You know, do you land somewhere or does it never end?
It's like this. It's like a step. So there's many successive conclusions. Well, at least from my journey anyway. So, you know, again, like I think I mentioned, I can't remember when I mentioned in this conversation, and it was in reaction to something. I think we were talking about attribute training and soccer and racket sports and this and that and this and that. I think knowing your why. So, I mean, when I cross train, when I cross train, I cross train for specific goals. So right now, one of the goals that I'm trying to reach is I'm trying to get more proficient on the ground, and I'm trying to also get my my cardio, my anaerobic cardio, and my what's the other kind of cardio? The sustainable cardio better, right? So I'm spending time with Scott Taylor, you know, We train his jujitsu. I cross train now in HIIT training, so I've included that now in my training. I've kind of scrapped the bodybuilding style training. I used to do that when I was in university and, bulked up and this and that. But now I'm utilizing kind of like what you were saying earlier about, your weight training for your karate, right? So I'm weight training now for my health. I'm weight training for speed. And I'm also weight training so that I can grip better, and things like that. And so once I reach those kind of goals and a certain proficiency, then my cross training kind of changes now, and so I've reached that goal, and now I kind of make other goals. So it's always changing. So yes, I reach a goal, but then I make another goal. and then I get humbled when I meet people who can kill those goals, like I Scott and his team, like those guys are beasts, man. And I get humbled. Like when I first met those guys, I thought I was a pretty good striker, but man, the distance closed very quick. I became claustrophobic extremely quick. And then these guys taught me how to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, just how to relax and flow and chill and just the drilling that these guys do. It's a different level, man. So that made me want to cross train more in grappling arts, and it translates into trapping and striking too, right? So it is never ending too. So yeah, it's a bit of both. It's a bit of both.
Right on. I want to make sure we have enough time. I mean, we still got a bit to go here, but I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about your seminars.
Oh yes.
And how you came to create what it is you're teaching, and then how you present that and what you want people to know about that.
Yeah. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I'll keep it short. So one of the first exposures to seminars at an international level was at the UK. So I went to the UK at 2018, 2019, and I was really nervous because going to another country, I don't know what to expect and this and that. But on the other hand, too, Facebook was a great thing, and so I got familiar with a lot of the instructors over there, and we had a lot of friendly chats and this and that. So I was going in with some expectations, and they had some expectations too. So it was nice. A lot of the content that I put over there was basically kata and bunkai, and also showcasing how boxing training, savat training, grappling training, Wing Chun training, all of that can be bolt-ons and integration points with kata and kihon, and how if you look at, it's kind of like being in karate, you're in your mountain, but when you have all these other people who are standing on their mountains, like a Wing Chun mountain or a savat mountain, a Muay Thai mountain, you're looking at your karate from their mountain, and so it's a beautiful perspective. And so I share these ideas, as I'm showing them, different reactions on the floor, and they love this stuff. And so, I had more requests to come back, and so I went back to the UK last year, and I trained with Les Bubka and Ian Abernathy. They invited me down, and we did a joint seminar there. And I love the Brits because they cross train a lot in their karate. And they come from very strong pedigrees, like Jeff Thompson and the guys. And so anyway, so that's the UK thing happened there. And then Germany happened last year in March, and that was really cool. I think I taught at a few dojos totaling about 135 to 140 students. So it was a really cool experience. I was nervous as hell, but once I got on there, and the energy was great, and I got a chance to taste like great German beer, and it was such a great experience. And so that's happening, and I have more opportunities, but I'm a school teacher during the day. It's really hard, and our schedule, I just can't leave to do that. So I've got some upcoming ones in April. I'm going to Philadelphia. May, I'm going to Michigan and Muskegon. July in Germany, we're doing a cross training seminar there. And in August, I'm going to LA, and we're doing a seminar there with a Korean school. So, and my German friends, we're all going to get together and do a practical karate seminar. So lots of fun happening.
That sounds
Yeah.
fantastic. And by the way, don't worry about rushing. This is all your time. So if somebody's coming to one of your seminars, you know, what's the pitch? Like, what are they coming to get from you? Because I'm excited to come to one of these and come see you. What are they going to be going?
Basically the beauty of taking different ideas and making your base art better. So it doesn't matter what art you're doing. It just so happens that, you know, I'm a karate guy showcasing this cross training idea, but it's a philosophy of training. So I'm showcasing how karate can help my stances, how boxing can help my stances, how savate can help my stances, how cross training with with Kali guys and tactical combative instructors can teach me about, you know, 360-degree type of thinking, you know, because a lot of the from what I've seen, a lot of the bunkai and self-defense applications are very unidimensional. It's like right here or on an angle, right? But they're not really thinking about level changes or surprise attacks and this and that. So you know, I get how could I say, advice from the guys on my team. Like, for example, there's SWAT operators on my team. There's police guys. There's defensive tactic instructors. And so all these guys, you know, they deal with different levels of violence under different environments. And so their perspectives I integrate into my karate, which I showcase to the public as saying, listen, all of these ideas can make whatever you're doing better, but you just got to know your purpose, right? So I kind of navigate them through finding what they want and showing them how they can get what they want through cross training. Yeah.
Right on. So what the one thing I really love you're talking about so much, the word is bunkai.
Yes.
You know, and I want to throw this to you, Hanshi Legacy. I mean, when Sensei Sandoval first came to us and started opening our eyes with the crane, so much of it was just deepening our sense of bunkai. Is that right?
Well, bunkai is exactly what Sensei Hanson says. Bunkai is situation self-defense, right? Or like he was saying, coming from the side or the back. Somebody grabs you by the neck and you get out of it and you pull them around the front of you, then you're fighting. You have to fight. So situation self-defenses make you aware of your reaction timing from a dead standstill where you're doing something else. All of a sudden, somebody grabs you. You have to get used to that type of thing. So you learn on a different bunkai. And also fighting techniques and principles are hidden in katas. And some of the techniques and some of the understanding of bunkai is a white crane is hidden through it. The very beginning, the mother of karate is the white crane, which was invented by Feng Chiulian, a woman, right? So the fighting is important, but the self-defense is when somebody initially attacks you, they're not going to jump out in front of you and jump in the stance and say, let's go. They're going to attack you from somewhere. So some of the bunkai is for you to get out of that initially. And then there are fighting techniques that are, as you know, in our katas, Shorin-ryu, is hidden because they don't want you sort of keep that to yourself. And that's from the older days of fighting. Nowadays, almost everybody knows some of the techniques in one way or another.
So I got a question for you, Hanshi, and then we'll go around the horn for everybody on this. Do you think people, i.e. enough schools, train bunkai enough? And do you think if you're not consciously training a bunkai, you'll ever know how to do it when the time comes?
It's all about teaching your body. It's like walking. You have to teach your body to do things. And the more you want to be able to do it efficiently is by doing it over and over again, putting it in your mind, feeling the situation, using all your senses. And that's done by repetition. Kata teaches you that. For instance, I always say to my students, do you want to know how many people I've killed? And they don't know what to say. I tell them hundreds and hundreds, because it's a state of mind, right? When I do my katas, that's where I can kill people. And it's just like practicing where to go when you're on a plane if something happens to the plane. If you haven't practiced it, if you haven't put it in your mind, you can't be giddish about some guy with a knife trying to stab a woman and her child. You got to do the job. So it's not all about, mainly it's about training. And then when you're in a situation to defend yourself, you blank your mind and allow your training to shine through, right? You can't be thinking about doing a kick or doing a wrist lock here or something like that. You never know what the person's going to do. So your mind has to be empty so you can react instantly, as opposed to having to clear your mind and then attack the person.
Right.
So kata does that. It prearranges your mind, your body, and your reaction.
Thanks,
Might-
Hanchi. Sensei Suino, are enough schools doing bunkai or your versions of it? And if a secret move isn't being consciously studied, is it a secret move or is it just non-existent?
I don't know what other schools are doing. I think everybody needs to work harder. Martial arts is hard, and if you want to get good, you got to train harder. You got to pressure test. I've said that on 1,000 episodes. And I don't think you have to practice exactly what you do in self-defense. I think you have to practice the principles, as Hanchi alluded to. So principles are the esoteric ideas that underlie the techniques. And my word for what you focus on is core thematic movements. I think you have to train the most important core thematic movements over and over again, and then they will arise out of you naturally when you need to apply them under pressure.
Right on. Sensei Dofan?
I don't think, if we're talking about karate, I don't think karate schools train bunkai enough. Like if you just look at the ratio for most of the dojos I go to, if you look at the ratio of how many times they do Goshiho in the room alone, right? Like doing the movements compared to with another person's hands on them, trying to work through that kata, I don't think they do that enough. And then I think sometimes when they do it, I guess another flaw is they try and corrupt it to the way that they want it to be, to their fantasy, instead of how it's actually going to be, right? So they try and move everything to a sparring range or a percussion range when some of the moves are just not that. In the kata, they're takedowns, they're stomps, they're traps, they're more clinching techniques. And so that's what for chaotic, it's, can you use your low block against a punch to your gut and a kick? Yeah, okay. Can you use your low block to move a person? A lot of times when I ask people, what do you use your chamber for? They just look at me with a blank expression on their face. They look at me like, but yet you've pulled your arm into chamber like more than like any other technique that you do in karate, and you have no use for it. You have no practical use of what you're going to use that for. So that's just my experience with it. And then other people are gone deep into it. I like going deep into it. I like the people who've gone deep into the bunkai and pressure tested it. My one exercise, I've done it with you, Sensei Benson, where just an Hanchi exercise of two guys clasping and then you're yanking each other around. And when the other guy's trying to grab you, you're pushing that hand down and trying to get that elbow in there. And maybe you're doing it in the kata one time, but under pressure, you got to do it like 50 times to get that guy out of there. I know it's a long-winded answer. I apologize for that. The other thing that always changed my thinking was when stylistically we do our shudo a certain way, but Sensei Legacy taught me really young that represents every version of a shudo that you can do, and that's only if your brain allows it to be every version of the shudo. If your brain stays with no, everything has to conform to this, then it's flawed.
Love that. So we're landing on you with the final answer for this question, Sensei Hanson. Do you think we're doing enough bunkai out there as a community or within your school? And also, do you think that if something's in there, but it's like a secret move and you're not cracking it open, that it's actually in there? or does it just die?
Respectfully, can you repeat that again? I just want to make sure I answer it
Well,
properly.
yeah, we'll start with the first part, which is, do you think enough bunkai is being practiced in general? And then number two is, let's say there's layers of bunkai and you could be doing 7 different things with the Gidam Brai. If you're not practicing all 7, are 7 really in there anymore? Or is it now only the number you're practicing?
Yeah. I think a lot of schools are practicing bunkai. But I think their reasons for bunkai are different. And like, for example, I've seen some competition bunkai, and if you want to look at it, how could I say this without some competition bunkai I see would fall apart under pressure, and it's simply because it's just will, unless like it's not a real I'm speaking to the choir here. You guys know what I mean. A confrontation is violent, it's chaotic, it's messy, it's non-logical, right? And unless if your purpose in developing bunkai is for self-defense, then you need to immerse yourself in that type of environment. And so I find a lot of schools, mainstream schools, they're not doing that. And I never claim that I'm a self-defense expert. So that's why, in our network, I'm happy to say that I can literally give a referral. I said, look, let me bring some guys down, or you go over there, go and talk to the experts. I think to develop good bunkai, you would need to, for me anyway, I would consult, and I do consult my tactical combative instructors, guys that live and breathe this stuff, bouncers, guys that my special ops guys that I'm going to be seeing in Germany that I've made friends with. I mean, we speak openly and honestly about what works, what doesn't work. They call my bullshit all the time, and my ego is thrown out the door. And this type of exercise, where you're bringing in context experts, you're learning from their chaotic drilling, you're replicating that in your gym, and continuously being uncomfortable, having things are not going to be clean, and sometimes you have to pull a couple of shots in there, and not just one clean shot. That one shot is a dream sometimes, and just learning to do that kind of stuff, I think needs to happen more. More scenario type of training, and more, as opposed to just going out there, going to a Krav Maga class, and it's kind of like a first aid type of thing. You know what I mean? So yes, I think bunkai is happening, but if you want to use it from a self-defense point of view, I don't think some instructors are. I think instructors can benefit from seeking out the content experts in self-protection and integrating that into their bunkai. That's not happening a lot, I don't think.
Love that. Thanks,
yeah.
Hanson. Well, we're the clock is done, my friend, and I'm afraid that flew by as quickly as I can remember a show going. So
was
we
awesome.
go around the horn to say goodnight, and we start with Hanshi Legacy. What do you want to say about our time with Sensei Hanson?
Oh, it was interesting. Very good. Too bad we never got to talk about Shorin that much, but I just want to add that Shorin, what you were saying at the end, don't be shy. That's why we're in this show, to let people know what works, what doesn't. Shorin is a ground level, street level combat art, where later on in time, some of the arts are what they call parlor house karate, where they don't practice or visualize a real happening. So thankful for your time with us, and hope to meet again sometime.
Thanks, Hanshi Legacy. Sensei Suino?
A few things stand out for me. One of which is a commonality that you and I have in our early lives, which is that we got bullied a lot. I was probably on the other side of the colored line, but I was moved into a place where I was in a minority and had to fight my way to and from school for the first 12 years of my life, and learned a lot of the same lessons I think you learned. And it's probably one of the reasons I fell in love with martial arts the first minute I walked in the dojo. Secondly, you mentioned several times about pressure testing your martial arts, and I just think that's so. I love martial arts for its own sake. I could do kata for 3 hours a day. I love it. But to me, at the end of the day, if it's not pressure tested, then it's effete, right? It's not real.
Amen.
I love the fact that at 54, you're still continuously learning. And from out here on the foothills of senility, I welcome you into that journey. And of course, the last thing is there's a phrase that each of our guests will utter over the course of the night, and it goes up on the Punch Kick Choke Chat Hall of Fame. And I think yours may very well be the consequences of being a dick.
Thanks, Sensei Suino. Sensei Dope.
Yeah, you know, since Hanson, I write a lot of notes. I like to go back and look at them, and I, like Sensei Suino was saying, I like to put them on the board and just like ruminate in my brain about them. But on that note, Karate Unity, I like how it started kind of organic for you, ground level. You said you were in garages training, and now you've grown it into this thing, and that's awesome, right? That it started at this grassroots level. You're in racquetball courts and parks and garages, and now you've got tons of people together doing it. That's great. I agree with everything you said about the biomechanics, right? Even when you put a weapon in your hand, like you were talking about, it's the same with the sword. Like you put a sword, a lot of the principles are exactly the same. That whole bullied in karate and racism thing, I just want you to know, like, to me, and then you said about you hope that God would say that you are an honest person. I believe that you are. I don't like thieves, bullies, or liars. Like those are all like very similar people to me. And when you're talking about that stuff, it really resonated. I'm sorry that happened to you, but in a way, I'm happy it happened to you because now we're talking. If that didn't happen, we wouldn't be talking. You might not have, maybe you would have went and played hockey instead of martial arts. Right? I like when you said that your training has to be purposeful. I must have said that like 1,000 times in the last year. If you want a specific result, you have to train for that result. You have to train deliberately for the result that you're looking for. And I think you said it for my wall of fame, know your why, right? Like I'm going to put that on the board. You got to know your why. It's really clear how much Vic Arnold meant to you, and studying together and doing those things. It really reminds me of my journey with Sensei Suino and Sensei Legacy. Like we study things together. We talk about things very deeply. As a matter of fact, one of my most proud things is that Sensei Legacy and I got our shodans in Iaido together on the floor together on the same day. I'm really proud of that. Like it's really cool thing for me. All the stuff we talked about, pressure testing, and you know, you learn that by getting your ass kicked by a boxer. That's, you know, through those lessons, that's where you either stay down or you get up. And I'm happy you're the kind of guy who gets up. Next 5 years, you're just excited basically about working with other people and bringing more people into the Karate Unity. And again, you said that's your greatest benefit, right? Is bringing people together. Want to train with Bassruden. I want to train with Bassruden too. So let's go together.
Maybe we'll do it together, man. We'll go to Los Angeles.
Let's do it together. I'd love to train with that guy. I just love him. And yeah, man, listen, every time I've talked to you, it's been so easy to talk to you. It seems like a lifelong friend that you've known since childhood when we're chatting. And it felt like that.
Appreciate that.
So thank you so much for coming on. And I know this isn't the end. This is just the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. My casa, so su casa. I'd love to have all you guys down here, man. We'll have some training, get some food, and you know, hang out, have some drinks, and it'll be good. I want to say thank you all. I really appreciate it.
Such a pleasure, Sensei Hanson. The quick things I want to add is, you know, just I love when you said your bunkai will fall apart because it will. Like you just know sometimes it's not good, and you don't. It doesn't need any more explanation than that. I like your term biomechanical music. I'm a musician, and that concept of things playing in concert with one another. And then I just really like that term you used, your karate from their mountain, when you can shift, when you can get off your own perspective and go, that looks like from here. I think anytime we can get that perspective of ourselves from another place, it humbles us in all the right ways. And that lets us also know what's great about what we're doing. So thank you so much. Is there any last thing you want to say, or should we wind up with our thanks and goodbyes?
I'm good. I'm grateful. Thank you. Appreciate that.
We're grateful for you being here. Sensei Dauphin, what do we got coming up before I thank our team?
Okay, so one thing Sensei Lacey and I were messaging about is just make sure that you go to the Punch Kick Choke Chat website. That would be you too, Sensei Hanson. If you have people that you think would be good guests on this show, please go on that website. We have a section there where you can recommend people. We've gotten a couple people through that website, and it would be great to use it more in that way.
Okay.
So a couple things coming up I want to mention too is since Suino's coming here to Kitchener in March 18th, 19th to do a sword seminar. If you're interested in that, you don't need to know the sword to come. Like, we're going to have some really good instructors there. Come on in and see if it's something that is going to benefit your martial arts. Or if you've never done martial arts before and you stumble across this, come as just no martial arts experience type of a person, but all are welcome. And we hope we have a lot of people there at that seminar. And I also want to just do a quick, now that our tournament, the Matsumoto Challenge, is done, the next one on my radar is Sensei Copeland's tournament. That's on June 17th in Windsor. We're all going to be, all the people here from Punch Kick Choke Chat are going to be there. And I hope everybody goes to that. I hope he gets as much or more support as we got at ours. And I know he's going to get it from us. So yeah. Who's coming up, Sean? We're going to have a host chat. It feels like forever since we've had a host chat.
It does.
And then we got two karate OGs from Canada that are coming on. Sensei Ron Fagan, who he's from the East Coast, and man, like if you go on Karate Canucks and listen to his talk, you're gonna laugh. And when I talk to him on the phone, like he's serious dude, like on about karate and how to use karate. And I'll just leave it at that. Like, he's a tactical type of a guy. He honed his craft in lots of weird places on the earth, as well as in bars. And he doesn't shy away from talking about any of it, which is great. And then again, another really like prominent person who we just saw on the weekend, Sensei Gary Hales and I have been going back and forth, and he's agreed to a date in March as well to come on and chat with us. And what a great person, and what a serious person too. He actually was corner referee in the very first tournament that I ever was in, and I can't wait to talk about that with him because it certainly was a memorable experience. Yeah, that's what's coming up, Sean.
That's awesome. Sensei, thanks so much for that. And just real quick, while I'm saying goodbyes, Robert threw up the Punch Kick Choke Chat contact guest in our chat button. So if you're on this live Zoom call, give that a look and bookmark that so you can think about people that you'd love to hear from in the future. And I just want to say thanks to Andrei Sedeshev, Robert Shlumsky, who was there especially tonight, Alden Adair, Justin Shea, Jesse Levitow, and Daniel Holland the third for all their work behind the scenes. We do not have a show without them. Thank you so much again, Sensei Chris Hanson, and thank you, Senseis, for hosting with me. It's never taken for granted what an honor this is. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Everybody.
Have a good night.